Hello, Dr. Elliott, and welcome to the MMM podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to speak with you again. You were actually named a 2019 MMM Healthcare Transformer. So we've known each other for several years, but it's been a while and a lot has happened since then. So looking forward to catching up with you on all this stuff.
For sure. Yeah.
As one of the first of what can be termed allergy influencers and a trailblazer in telemedicine and broadcast to television as well, you have much to contribute on this topic. So really looking forward to this discussion. Given, and I'd love to get into, your decision to devote your energy to growing your, social media influencing full time. But before we get into that, given the time of year it is, we're just kind of embarking on we're on allergy season, excuse me. And perhaps you could weigh in on kind of your thoughts on the state of allergy influencers online, including what information is trending on social media as allergy season starts up.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There are a lot of individuals and moms, I would say mostly in the food allergy space, but you're also seeing Mothers Against Asthmatics and a number of others. So this whole world of individual allergy influencers who are coming together really to find community sort of started on Facebook and has now moved more towards Instagram and TikTok. Really interesting folks, the allergic girl who kind of travels around the world and talks about her life with food allergies, but also educates people on how they can travel safely if they do have food allergies. There's another app called Spoken that rates individual products and restaurants and stuff. So there's a really big allergy community on social media, which is great to see. There are also a lot of allergy myths on social media. And we saw things like the Benadryl challenge, and we saw things where people are showing pictures of their allergic reactions and not using EpiPens and all of this. And with the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, I chair the Public Relations Committee. We actually made a decision to start a social media subcommittee where we hand-selected allergists across the country to represent the American College of Allergy and Asthma and Immunology, and also just be that source of truth, that authoritative source of truth as physicians, so that people have a place to go and they know that they're getting accurate, objective health information. And what we've created is actually a weekly collaborative where we all kind of get together, which I love this. I love that there's kind of a multi-pronged approach here where we get together and we do weekly posts where it's 4 or 5 of us giving a recommendation on a topic. So I think tomorrow we're going to be posting on our favorite allergy hacks. So we have Rubin allergy, Zach Rubin. I think he's got about 1 million followers on TikTok. We've got Payal Gupta, who also has a podcast called The Itch Podcast, Farrah Khan, Doug Jones, a number of others. And we kind of get together. We have a lot of fun with it. It's actually really created a nice community for us to kind of share best practices and learn from one another. But the patients love it because, they may have one loyal allergist. Now they're getting the opinion of 5 or 6 loyal allergists on a hot topic. And then the American College of Allergy and Immunology is actually getting content out of that because it's challenging for these large specialty organizations to keep up with the content demands of social media. So then they become very outdated and then they're not resonating as much with their members. So it's like a multi-pronged approach, but it's been great because all of these collaborative things sit on our individual accounts, but then also live on the college account too. So I think the allergists are doing a great job. I encourage other specialists to do so as well. And my longer term vision is to actually have a multidisciplinary approach where we've got an allergist, a GI doctor, a nutritionist, a cardiologist, all kind of weighing in on a clinical question. We do this traditionally as a form of like grand rounds where we sort of educate other providers and stuff. But this could be a patient facing where we kind of just get specialists weighing in on topics, and they don't have to be really complex topics. They could be hot topics, they could be fun topics, but you're getting a well-rounded view as opposed to just a snippet from one random person that might not even be in healthcare.
I like that. It's really fascinating to see what you're seeing, in this space because, right, we've seen the Dr. Rubins and so forth. And I also saw your approach where you have multiple second opinions or hot takes, and you kind of go deep on one topic from a number of your colleagues. And that's been a really nice approach and an innovative one too. And it's interesting that you're then creating a content stream for the American College of allergy, asthma, and immunology. And I'm going to get to that as well, too, because you've decided to devote a lot of time to them, with the social media committee and so forth. That probably has come with a, significant demands on your time. But any thoughts on how the allergy dynamic differs from other disease states, like on TikTok and some other these other platforms?
Well, what I love about allergy is it's the diagnostic dilemma. And so we're often like the fourth, fifth, sixth doctor that someone comes to. They just don't know what's going on, right? They see a GI. Is it a food intolerance? Do I have acid reflux? Do I have this or that? So we are kind of like this all-encompassing allergy. Cells are in every single organ in the body. So we really are, we do have a holistic view of the patient, as opposed to other specialists who are like, we're cardiologists. We focus on the heart. That's the only organ. As allergists, you can have mast cells in your heart. So we have to know that too. And also we deal a lot with the random cases that are, again, those diagnostic dilemmas that are very hard that are challenging to diagnose. So we often end up finding ourselves as quarterbacks where we have to talk with a whole bunch of other specialists and stuff to try to piece together what's been happening with an individual. And so that's like a kind of the fun detective work that we do. But then also there's the bread and butter allergy that 1 in 3 Americans suffer from an allergic condition. So it's like very tangible for people. Whereas again, you may never see a rheumatologist in your entire life, or you never need to see an orthopedic surgeon. But more often, more likely than not, you or someone close to you has had an allergy. So it is like a very hot area for social media, for broadcasts. Like you can bet there's always going to be an allergy story. It's always allergy season is always in the news, right? I'm always getting that phone call to talk about, it's this allergy season, and is it going to be the worst season yet? So it is very, like, allergies are a very household thing. Everyone's got rashes, hives, and things like that. So while it's very common and impacts everyone, and there are lots of things that you can do in your environment to reduce allergies. So that's like a very, very tangible recommendations for people. It also can be very esoteric, where people come to us with very complex problems, and we're working to kind of figure out the root cause.
Kind of being expert diagnosticians, bringing in all these different. This is what makes an MD an MD, right? And
Exactly.
not an NP or a PA. But, you mentioned the television. You've appeared on a host of TV shows, including GMA, where you've addressed some of these topics. You're also chief medical officer for Virtual at Ascension, one of the very biggest health systems in the country. And in addition to your clinical academic medicine appointment at NYU. But you've decided to position yourself as a thought leader in health influencing and what it means to be a medical digital creator. I think 4 months ago you decided I'm going to dedicate my energies to social media influencing full time. Talk about why you made that decision, and what your following is now, and how I think you said you're still kind of defining yourself, and you're kind of letting the audience kind of help steer you in that direction. Talk about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I dabbled a little bit in social media in 2017, 2018, really because when I was doing broadcasts, people would ask me, oh, do you have a social media? But I wasn't really sure what to do with it. And then COVID hit, and I just felt like there was nothing that I was going to say that was important enough, because a lot of the stuff that I had historically done was travel and lifestyle and some aspirational things. And I just, I don't know, I kept the COVID time very personal. And then it's just always been in the back of my mind to pursue social media, sort of been a calling for me, really because I've always been so passionate about providing people with useful health information. And I felt very limited in my clinical practice. The 20 people that could see me a day were very lucky, but what about everybody else that couldn't get in to see me because it would take months to get an appointment, And I just felt like I'm saying the same things over and over again to patients. And it's always an aha moment for them, a light bulb moment. I didn't realize I was doing it this way. And you mean all I have to do is take off my shoes when I come into the house, and then that's going to reduce the pollen load in my home? Oh, you mean to tell me that a HEPA, like an air filter, is not going to help for my dust mite allergy? Like, why did I spend all this money on this? You mean to tell me a humidifier is going to make my allergies worse because you need a dehumidifier if you have mold or dust mite allergies? So I'm like, I got to find a platform or a place to get this information out everywhere. And I had, thought broadcast was going to be that thing. But then the energy and the focus has really shifted away from broadcast and more towards these online platforms. And I'm like, that's it. I got to do this. So back in November, I said, you know what, I'm really going to focus my energy on this and harness my creative potential. So in the last couple of months, I've gone from 18,000 to 81,000 followers. I had one post that is like over 16 million views, a few others that are over a million.
Congrats.
And
That's very
continuing
impressive.
to trend. And it's really fun. And I just love that people are commenting and engaging with me. And we'll get to sort of that fine line between, hey, we're not providing medical advice, but we are providing general information that may be applicable to your life. So it's been really engaging and enjoyable. And I'm not trying to overthink how you turn this into a career. I really just want to understand the platform and understand the power of these platforms, and then utilize that to obviously to help patients, right? And reduce their exposure to misinformation. I also want to use it and understand it so that I can help doctors and other healthcare providers understand what their place is in social media. And I want to use it to better understand the value of it as a marketing tool for your business, whether that's a traditional healthcare practice or you want to start something new, you want to create a product, you want to do consulting, you want to what have you. I believe that it is an incredibly powerful tool. And so I wanted to start with building a base first and actually allowing my audience to inform what I do next versus I've got a product and now I'm going to spend all this money on organic social media as just like, or paid media, right? To just kind of drive things. And then it just becomes an advertisement. So I truly want my next thing that I embark on to be organic and something that my patients, my viewers actually have a say in, right? So they are going to define me as much as I am creating a product for them. And I love that. I mean, in my mind, this is real time testing and learning, just like you do in the startup space. So yeah, it's really fun.
Yes, as a clinician, I would imagine you're highly attuned to being there in terms of filling a void of what your patients want. I think that's gives you that sort of natural tendency to keep that as your North Star, which is very important.
You realize where the gaps are, right? Mm-hmm. You realize what patients don't realize and know. And then if I can then take that information and then inform providers, and I have a coaching and consulting business called Modern Medical, where I am informing providers like, hey, like this is a really low hanging fruit. Like this is what patients hear. I've got 80,000 people telling me over and over again that they, don't understand how to take their thyroid medication, for example. Like this is the content and information that they want and need. So then now I can work with doctors to say, here's your patient acquisition strategy. Here's how you need to show up and meet patients online, right? Here's how you can then incorporate virtual first to pull people through. But you have to have some sort of online presence. And then here's the kind of information that they are looking for,
Mm-hmm. That's great feedback, and those are great challenges that would make any clinician excited, to want to get up in the morning and do their jobs, what they're trained to do. I wonder, you mentioned like some of the silly, myths and misconceptions that pop up about allergies. What are you seeing now that's kind of proliferating on social? What's the new Benadryl challenge, if you will?
Yeah, you know what? We've seen a lot of stuff on like EpiPens and how like people think it's funny to, see what happens with their allergic reaction and not use their EpiPens, which is something that we've really had to work hard to combat. Another trend, which is a good thing, is people just sharing their stories. We've seen a lot of tragic stories in the food allergy space recently, but a lot of people coming and speaking up about their experiences. And then we're seeing a lot of the food allergy community kind of stepping up and supporting one another. So that's actually a trend in a great direction. One wonky trend is that people were taking like nail polish and putting it on their face to kind of just like create like face mask type things and then ripping them off and then thinking that they're going to have like a smoother face. And so we're seeing a rise in very strange, like it's called acrylate, which is like found in nail polish, that type of allergy popping up. The other thing that we are seeing with this tween skincare trend is kids putting all kinds of stuff on their face and having burns on their face because they're using high-powered retinols and acids on their faces. And we're also seeing a whole lot of contact dermatitis or contact allergy because, again, people are using all of these different products, 10, 15 different products on their faces. The more ingredients you're using and exposing your face to, the more likely you are to develop an allergic reaction. So I'm constantly getting patients saying, like, what is this? What's going on? What's happened to my face? When they're doing these product reviews.
Okay, right. That's the pitfalls of being a product reviewer on TikTok, and this certainly crosses over into the skin and beauty department, which we've one of my colleagues has kind of made a living in kind of covering the weekly trends in the beauty area. It's really an eye opener, but that kind of brings us into the next question, which is, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, in terms of the doctor-patient relationship. The space is less regulated, obviously, than traditional doctor pharma and doctor advertising relationships. And as you said, you're not providing medical advice per se. You're giving general advice. Excuse me, but you never know how it's going to be used, or leveraged by the viewer. So, what kind of questions does this raise about the doctor-patient relationship?
Yeah, there are a number of parties here, right? It's the individual doctor who really needs education. Like, we need some guardrails around like what is appropriate and what's not appropriate for social media. The brand agencies that are coming in and representing brands need to understand that there are some limitations with a clinician influencer. There's a company called Medfluencers who I think is doing a really good job trying to represent physicians on social media and trying to educate these other agencies to say, like, doctors are not a traditional health influencer. It's a very different animal, so to speak. And there's certain things we can and we cannot say. And so when we're co-creating content, you have to give the physician a lot more license to say, this is not something that's appropriate. This is. One thing that I think is challenging is, right, I am a doctor, but I'm also Tanya. And Tanya may want to do something, or I may like a product as an individual, but because I'm a doctor, people are assuming that I'm making a recommendation clinically, and that's really where that nuance and the fine line is. And one of the best areas to describe that is in medicine. We are trained to not use the terms always or never, right? Because there's always some sort of an exception. So I'll never say, like, I always give this to my patient, or you will definitely get better from this. We always sort of say, like, based off of the literature, the likelihood is, right? We always kind of couch our recommendation. And it's also like a shared decision-making process where we say, like, there's risks, there's benefits, right? So now take social media, right? Where everything is a hook, right? I'm a doctor and I never do this. I always use this on my face. And because you have only a minute, right? Pretty much, like, to keep someone's attention, you really can't get into like much around like the risks and the benefits of this or that. You lose your audience. So even if you do end up saying that, when you look at your analytics, you've dropped off, right? So, to make a very compelling, catchy thing, you want to stay in like the 10 to 30 second range. Otherwise, you're going to lose all your audience. So, like, what is that balance for a medical creator to say, like, I want to be able to give objective information. I also want to be able to grow my following, right, and have a hook. And I also have the right to say that I, Tanya, as an individual, never use this product. But then you also have to say, but that doesn't mean I tell all my patients to do it. So you're in like this strange conundrum, and especially as I am kind of balancing the medical knowledge and information with the lifestyle and travel and like, aspirational, inspiring to other women, or, like living a certain way. That's been the hardest thing for me, right? To stay compelling and catchy, but then not overstep and say like, oh, I'm a doctor and I'm telling you, you have to take the supplement. So again, I think there needs to be some guardrails around what doctors can and cannot say. There also needs to be some liberties around, well, doctors are also people and they can have an opinion on something that they like or not like, but to not combine those two or intertwine those two so much and exploit the fact that you're a doctor.
Right. Yes. So you'll have to make that clear in all of your content that you create. That's a really interesting line to have to walk, so to speak.
That was part 1 of this conversation. Part 2 will be released later this week.